Hello and welcome to another episode of Football Talk Podcast. My name is Ozzie and I'm your host for today's show. And today we have a very special guest, a good friend of mine, Sam from Undiluted Media. Sam, how's it going, mate?
I'm good, bro, man. I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on, Ozzy. And yeah, just
Yeah.
have some great conversations. Man City, Liverpool.
Yeah.
Let's get into it, man. But I'm all good, thanks, man.
It's funny because I've known you for a bit and I didn't know
Mhm.
you were a Man City fan. So it was like good because I can actually get a Man City content creator on my show. So yeah, it's a good one to have
Look,
you on the show.
every time I tell people, it always spins them. So it's kind of good, and it's like a little trump card, isn't it? So it's not too bad, being a City fan now. So can't complain.
You can't complain at all. And speaking of can't complain, what are your views on the season so far? Have you popped champagne bottles already, or is it still on ice right now?
Nah, do you know what, bro? It's still on ice at the moment because look, it's a lot. It's a long season. What we've played, 8 games, I believe.
Yeah,
So it's just like, look, we're doing what we should be doing. We've had a great start to the season, and it's just like just take every game at a time. And I remember I was having a debate, not a debate, but I asked my brother. I said to my boy, "Do you think like City can actually go unbeaten?" And he
yeah,
was like, "You know what? It could happen because obviously we've got the squad, we got in a sense the like little winter break that comes in with obviously the World Cup, and there's gonna be players not going to the World Cup, i.e. Haaland and stuff like that.
yeah,
So it is a possibility, but just in terms of how grueling the Premier League is in terms of the games you play, you've got Champions League, FA Cup, Carabao Cup, and the
yeah.
league so competitive, it's difficult. But the way City are playing right now, I wouldn't be surprised if we did go unbeaten. Do you know what I mean? But it was a difficult task. But so far, happy with how the season started.
That's the thing. You can't really not say that's not a possibility because the way you're playing right now, you're unbeatable. Let's not beat around the bush. And I think obviously the introduction of Haaland
Mm.
for me was always a top signing, but there was always some corners that thought, oh, he's not going to do well in the Premier League, or he's not as great as people think he is. When you signed Haaland, were you optimistic that he'll hit the ground running straight away, or was it a slight surprise in terms of how impactful he's been so far?
So, like, to be honest, it's you expected it, but you didn't expect it like this because in terms of City, how we play, the chances we create, we play with the width, overlapping, and the
Yeah,
underlaps as well, and the way we just put balls into the box. And the type of striker Haaland is, and you can see from the goals that he scored, it's not like he's scoring worldies or anything like that. He's just in the right place at the right time and getting the tap-ins. Yes, we had that with Sterling, but that was less frequent. Whereas now
yeah,
Haaland just knows where to be. And I think in those big games last season, i.e., the Champions League, where, for example, Real Madrid, where we just needed one goal to kind of dictate the game, Haaland
yeah.
can always do that. He's going to step up. The goal we scored against Dortmund, who would have thought he scored? He did some next Kung Fu Air Haaland thing, and he scored. So I didn't expect him to hit the ground running like this, but I did expect him to have a lot of chances and score goals. But I didn't
Yeah.
think by 9 games he's going to have 15 goals. That's crazy. Do you know what I mean?
It is crazy. Back to back hat tricks, like you
Yeah,
could be his biggest fan, but that is like that's dream world stuff. Like you don't see strikers, especially in their first season, him back to back hat tricks. I think he's already beaten records that Cristiano Ronaldo has in terms of number of
yeah.
hat tricks. I think Frank Lampard was one as well. So yeah, he's in crazy, crazy form. Is he available for this game? I haven't heard any because I know he wasn't available at the Copenhagen game.
Yeah, so he's available for this game. I think Pep was just kind of resting. We're ready through. We knew we weren't going to lose. We needed a point to go through. So do you know what? He's had injury history before. So just wrap him in cotton wool, let him chill this game, and then get him for the big game where he's going to give Van Dijk some troubles in it. But we'll get into that. Do you know what I mean? So, but I think it was just one of those, just for precaution, to be fair. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think against Copenhagen, Hagen's respectively, it wasn't a must-win game. I feel like you guys have notched up enough points to rest your players and play second string if you wanted to. So yeah, looking good for you guys. Now, despite Liverpool's inconsistency this year,
Mm.
do you still regard them as rivals, or are you looking at your over your shoulder at other teams like an Arsenal, for example, as the closest contenders for the title this year?
Do you know what it is, bro? With Liverpool and City, we've got this history in it. We've gone
Yeah,
back and forth for like the last 4 to 5 years. So even though they're
yeah,
playing bad, Arsenal's beat them. Liverpool, Man United's beat them. This is at Anfield now, isn't it? And we know Anfield where it is on the Champions League nights. them big stages, the fans come out, and as a City fan, we haven't had a good record there in the first place. So yes, we should beat them in terms of based on form, and we're doing our thing, and we've got the players right now. But you just know Liverpool, in terms of how they play, they're going to be up for it. Klopp's going to say, look, everyone's written you off. This is what you need to do. And like I said, the atmosphere is going to be lively. It's going to be a ruckus run. So even though you guys are playing bad, I'm still worried. I do think we'll come out with a win, but it won't be as easy as everyone expected. Because looking at the Arsenal game, you guys lost, but it could have been a game where you guys could have snatched a win. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you had better defending, took a couple chances, you could have come out of Emirates with a W. So I'm not going to take it too lightly and say, oh, we're gonna smash you and it's going to be an easy victory. Still going to be a tough game, but I think we'll get the dub.
Yeah, I'm still fuming about that loss, to be fair, because I think the referee had a shocking game that day. So yeah, probably less said about it. I've been going on a rant about that for like 2-3 days now. So yeah,
no,
it's still.
I feel you, man. Even the penalty with Thiago, I think was a bit soft. And it was just a bit soft, you know what I mean? And I just think there was a situation where Liverpool could have taken chances, and just in terms of conceding that goal just before half time, now it just changes the atmosphere in the Emirates. If it was 1-1, the fans are going to be going to half time kind of bit weary, like, you know, we could lose this game. But going 2-1, you've got that safety blanket of if Liverpool scores, we draw in, and then we can kind of go further. So I think there's positives to take from there, and there's quite a few negatives to take from that game as well, bro.
So that's a fair point, actually. So as an outsider, so obviously not a Liverpool fan, what do you think is the reason why Liverpool have been misfiring this season? Is it the 7th season curse that everyone talks about, Klopp, or is it just something where maybe Liverpool haven't recruited well, which is normally one of our strengths, where we always sign the right players? I think a lot of fans were screaming for midfielders in the summer. It never really happened well. We got Arthur Melo, but he's pretty much done and dusted as well, so I don't count him. But do you see where the squad needs a revamp, or it's just one of those seasons where I think there's so much going on? We had a longer season last year, so are we still hungover from last season's efforts?
Do you know what? Like, from an outsider looking in, I think there's quite a few things to take into it, because you look at like Klopp and Pep, they're managers that have a lot of intensity in it, and they demand a lot of their players. And prior to Man City, Pep had hardly stayed at a team for more than like 3 years. The max would be 3.5, 4 years, because it's draining in terms of how he wants you to press, how he wants you to play, system, and you've got to be very rigid in terms of, yes, it's going to be fluidity, but he wants you to stick to his philosophy of how he plays. And that's very similar to Klopp in terms of that gegenpress, that high intensity. And I think in terms of, if you're playing like that, you have to have a refresh. So in terms of bringing in new players, I think in that period, Liverpool probably done it once. I think it was that 2018 to 2019 when you brought in Alisson, Van Dijk, Fabinho, Naby Keita. You brought in quite a few players, and that kind of revamped the squad. But then since then, you've brought in incremental improvements. Some players that are not ready yet, and they're going to be ready in the future where they can't help you. And there's some players that Klopp has been very loyal to, that maybe he should say, do you know what? Your time's gone. Let's move on. Like Oxlade-Chamberlain, Milner. You got a couple of guys that they're just there, but they can't really add anything to the team now. I think that's where Liverpool kind of made that mistake in terms of not going out and saying, do you know what, FSG, let's just spend 150 million, recruit 4 or 5 players, and then the following season, we might need to bring in 1 or 2 here and there and tweak it. And you've seen that with City in terms of, yes, we've got the unlimited funds, but we always have a refresh. Like, for example, Sterling, we moved him out. We brought in Alvarez. Jesus went, brought in Haaland, brought in Calvin Phillips. And then we're bringing in the younger players like the Cole Palmers. Obviously, we've got Foden there. We've got Mahrez. And we have a little refresh. Do you know what I mean? So we brought in a left back as well. So I think that's where the issue is. Maybe it's a bit of mental fatigue in terms of, you know, Klopp demanding a lot. And then also, I'll just say recruitment has been good in terms of you've brought in the young players like Carvalho, Harvey Elliott, the Diaz and stuff like that. But you haven't kind of added onto it in terms of bringing other players. So you can rest the Fabinho and then someone else comes in of that caliber. Or you rest the Thiago, someone of that caliber comes in. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's a mixture of both.
That's spot on. I agree with everything you said there, because one of Klopp's weaknesses as a manager is that he's a bit sentimental with certain players. So I think when it comes to loyalty, there's players that for me should have been gone a long time ago. People think I have an agenda against this player. It's Naby Keita. I don't think he should be at Liverpool. He should have been gone a long, long time ago. And he's still, where is he? Like people asking me, why do you always have something bad to say about Naby Keita? He's not playing, is he? So I can only say in terms of what I feel, what I see. Do you know what I mean?
I hear that.
So yeah, so with me, I think you're spot on. I think we recruit. I think that 2018-19 season, well, the Coutinho money helped with that as well.
Yeah.
But we definitely bought high caliber players that they were ready for the first team straight away. Now we're buying players here and there, but I feel like we're buying players like a year too late. So, for example, the signing we just had, Calvin Ramsey from Aberdeen, we've needed a backup right back for like 2-3 years now, and like it's just too late, too little. And there's areas where we haven't covered. So you mentioned Fabinho, like Henderson can cover that number 6 role, but he's not really naturally a number 6, if that makes sense. And Thiago, whenever he's not playing, we just fall apart. We don't have a controller in midfield. We don't really have a player that makes things tick around the field. So FSG, I think their business model is quite sort of like tight in terms of they only want what they need at the time, but they don't think long term. Or I don't think they're ambitious. Where it's like, you know what? Let's cover all the areas, because when City recruit players, forget the whole. You spent 50 million here and there. You're buying areas that strengthen the squad. So even if he's covering a few, like when you sign Grealish, he's not there for one position. He's there where he can play on the left, he can play as a number 10. He can play in different roles. So yeah, so you have to respect in terms of City's recruitment. And I think it's spot on in terms of the Liverpool analysis. We've got a lot of work to do. I think next summer will be a big one. I'm not going to talk any transfer targets because that's too far ahead for me to even go that direction. So let's get back to this game. So predicted lineups. Who do you think will start for City in this game?
So if I'm just going based on availability and who we got, I'd say it'll be the usual suspects. So we have Edison in goal, of course. I think Cancelo's going to play right back. And what I've seen of Ake playing left back has been he's played really well, because obviously he's a centre back by default, but he can also play left back. And I just think at the moment where Kyle Walker's injured, it's not really a game where you're going to start Sergio Gomez. So just to have that, because obviously the way City play and they build up, sometimes they build up with a 3 at the back or a 2 at the back. So I think Ake is going to play left back, which will be good. And again, talking about recruitment, and this signing actually surprised me, because I looked at it and I'm thinking, we've got enough centre backs. Why do we get Manuel and Kanji? But he's come in and he's slotted in, and he can just play the Pep way in terms of he can bring the ball forward, he can distribute, and he's composed. And obviously being at Dortmund where they play football, he can kind of slot into our team. So I would say it's going to be Edison, Cancelo right back, left back Ake, and then the partnership of Diaz and Akanji.
Okay.
And this way it's going to get a bit tricky, because as much as I love Gundogan in terms of what he can do, where he can play as a 6 and he can get into the box late, especially this game, we need someone that's going to be very disciplined. So I hope Rodri's fit enough to play. But if he doesn't play, I think it's going to be Gundogan at the 6, which it is a bad shout. But just in terms of being disciplined and saying know when to get forward and make your runs to the box at the right time. But you're going to need someone that's going to just sit there and just kind of, shadow and enforce, that defensive midfield, and obviously in front of the back too. And then the midfield is going to be the usual suspects. It's going to be KDB and Bernardo Silva. Obviously, I'm going to go straight to the big man up top. Number 9, Haaland. And then this is where it's going to get a bit tricky. I think Foden's going to start. And I think Foden's probably going to start from the left, not on the right. Okay. So if that is the case, that means Mahrez will most likely start on the right. Okay. And then I'll say that's the 11. Because I just think how Foden's been playing the last few games and continue from last season, and the way Pep uses him is where, yes, you start on the left or the right, but he's kind of got free range where he goes into the half spaces between the lines, and he's getting those through balls like we saw against United, and he's getting into those little pockets. So I think he's going to probably start on the left, and then Mahrez on the right, and the big man up top, Haaland, man. So I think that's the starting 11.
Yeah,
What about you?
that's a scary formation. I'm not gonna lie, because that Foden for me has been in sensational form. Scoring, even he's coming to scoring hat tricks here and there as well.
Exactly.
And Mahrez for me, whenever he plays against Liverpool, I always feel like he gets the best out of our fullbacks. I remember last season he came on. He only came on for like I think 10, 15 minutes.
He nearly
But
scored, right?
he scored, and I think he did. He miss the penalty as well in that game. I can't remember.
There was a chance where he should have just slotted it, but he tried to dig the keeper. I was like, why did you dig it? Why did you just slot it?
That's the one. Yeah, I was thinking, what one was it? Yeah, and he ran Robertson ragged in that game. So yeah, if that is the formation, that is a terrifying sight. In terms of Liverpool, look, the big debate is in terms of how would this team set up? What is the shape of this team? Some people are saying, "Oh, we got to play it safe. We got to play 4-3-3." For me, that formation needs to be bin now. I'm trying to be a bit more forward thinking. I want a 4-2-3-1. So
I saw you post that the other day, like when you were playing Arsenal. He's like, "Oh, thank God we're playing this formation." And it's funny to see Liverpool play that because we're just used to that flat 4-3-3. But obviously, come from a Liverpool fan, hearing you say you wanting to change, then maybe that's needed right about now.
I think because we've played that formation for such a long time, it's just a natural transition because of our current players in our squad. We've got a lot of players that are natural number 10. So you've got Harvey Elliott, who plays as a natural number 10. You've got Carvalho. Bobby Firmino, for me, looks better playing more deeper than he does when he's up top. So you've got a good few players that, for me, suit that number 10 role. And our midfielders, they're not known to be creative or box-to-box players. They're more robust, efficient, competitive in terms of trying to make up plays. So for me, it just fits the system and the squad in terms of that formation. And I'm hoping long term. I think Klopp's kind of seen the light now. I feel like that is the formation he wants to play. Whether he does against City or not, it's debatable because you do have to look at the opposition. But I'm a bit more adventurous, a bit more forward thinking. So I mean, like, look, got nothing to lose. Like, we're not doing well anyway. So try and go at them. Home advantage as well. So try and get the to our side as well. So I'm going for 4-2-3-1. Alisson and goal, obviously. Back four. Tsimikas has been decent in the last few games, but I think Robertson showed that he looks back to full fitness. So I'm going for Robertson left back. Trent isn't available. I think he's out for 2 to 3 weeks, so he won't be available for this game, which probably is a good sign. I think because I don't think he's playing that bad the way the media has made it portrayed.
I want to ask you about that. What's your thought? Because obviously there's a gender and Trent now. Because for the last 3 years, especially in the Premier League, like who's the better right back? Reece James, Trent, or Cancelo? And now, obviously, he's going for a little down patch, and some of the mistakes not really his fault. But now there's just a magnifying glass on him, and everything that's done is like, oh, he's made a mistake. This is why Southgate don't rate him. That's why he don't play for England. Like, but what's your thoughts on that, bro? What's your thoughts on that?
That is literally it, because I think with Trent, the way our system is set up, it gives him that freedom to roam around and be the creative spark in our team. He doesn't play that, I want to say, that old school right back, English right back, where you're expecting him to be that defensive player on the right hand side, like the Gary Neville. That's who I think of when I think of defensive
now,
right
like
back.
how Pep's kind of enforced that inverted wing back, where the Lam, Cancelo, where they come into the middle of the pitch and they're basically like an extra midfielder in a sense.
Extra midfielder, exactly. Because that's the thing. A lot of like, oh, why can't Trent play as a midfielder? It kind of does in terms of the way the team is shaped up. Like he's an inverted wing back, like you say. He'll come in and then he'll thread the balls around the pitch. So for me, I think because we're playing so bad right now, and I think defensively we've been shocking. Van Dijk has been below par, and I've said that openly as well. Matip for me has looked quite shaky as well. Robertson for me just looks tired most of the time. It's like he's been overworked. So it's a number of factors that if we had a solid defense, then those sort of areas around Trent won't be exploited as much. Another factor is that Henderson hasn't been playing as many games. He's normally the protector for Trent when he goes forward. We've had Harvey Elliott, who's still young, still learning the game, and isn't quite well equipped to add defensive duties to his current game right now. So I feel like that's another thing as well. the whole right back, like who's the best right back? Thing is, Reece James plays more advanced for Chelsea now. So is he a right back as well? And Cancelo for me plays that same role where he's an inverted fullback, whether it's on the left side or the right side. So for me, the game has changed. I feel like people are looking at it the wrong way. They're looking at it where they're thinking he should be a Gary Neville. I don't want my Trent Alexander-Arnold to be a Gary Neville. I want him to be
100%.
the way he's playing right now. So it's frustrating as a Liverpool fan to hear all of this, but we know what he offers to the team. Like we know what he does. So yeah, I think for him, when he comes back to the team, stick to basics in terms of defending. Doesn't need to overthink it too much because there's been so many times where I feel like he's done really well one-on-one against top wingers in world football. But obviously, when the team's not playing well, unfortunately, the media or fans need to find a scapegoat. Who's the person? And because it's coming from the right-hand side as well, it's only natural to blame it on that person. No one's really looking at Matip, where Matip is playing right-sided centre-back as well, but no one's really looking at him in that regards because I don't think he's covered him in great form. Like there's been times where he's been out of position and Trent has tried to cover him and it just hasn't worked out. So yeah,
What's your thoughts, bro, on people saying that in that sense? Like, for example, when you got a strong centre back and someone that's very vocal, i.e., Van Dijk or like a Ferdinand or Vidic, and you see that Trent's on that right and he's a bit shaky. Why don't you move Trent to that right hand side of the centre back where he can kind of Trent get back, stay here. This is when you go forward. Like sometimes maybe that's where he's got to kind of switch up because I think as Trent, because I think when he was young, he used to play in midfield anyway. He's played further forward. And come back, and I think, look, defending ain't the most glamorous thing in football, and that's not what his interest is. But if he's got someone that can kind of help him and say, look, this is where you should go forward, this time your runs, stay back here and there, that might just kind of help his improvement and help him evolve in terms of being a complete defender. But that was just my thoughts. I've heard a lot of people say it, and I thought maybe that's something that should be done because if you're playing next to a centre back that's not very vocal, you're just going to kind of do what you want to do. Whereas if you got someone that's going to say, bro, what are you doing? Get back. Then you're going to think twice before you just bomb forward. And like you said, Henderson's normally the guy that once Trent goes forward or inverts, he will drop back to create that like kind of free in the back. And if he's not playing, maybe you might have to be more streetwise in terms of, okay, cool. I'm not going to bomb here. I'm just going to pick my positions kind of wisely. And I saw that with Cancelo against Manchester United. When we played United and he had to, at first he started on the left, normally you would see him inverting in a lot and, playing those half spaces. But Pep must have told him, look, these guys, we know how they're going to play. They're going to want us to come forward. You're going to press they're going to catch us on the counter. So for some reason, I realized that Cancelo wasn't really inverting a lot. He wasn't even getting forward. He was playing everything safe, coming in, side passes, do 1-2s and take it like that. So sometimes you just got to adjust to the game that you're kind of playing.
No, I think you're spot on. I think with Trent, that is the areas that he needs to improve on, where he needs to read the game a bit better for me. The problem with our team right now is that because we're conceding so many goals, we haven't really adapted our sort of defensive setup. We're still very much playing a high line, which is why we're getting, run over, where teams are clipping the ball over us and then we're getting exposed. And even Van Dijk, because he's not in great form as well, for me, it doesn't help for him to come next to him because they're just going to be a shambles together. And plus with Van Dijk, I feel like he's more better suited on the left-hand side just due to his passing range where he's a lot more comfortable on the ball. He normally whips in crosses or long ball passes to Salah on the right-hand side. So for me, that's his natural game. So there's been times last season where Matip for me was one of the best defenders for Liverpool, probably one of the best defenders in the Premier League last season. And then we had Konate, who's just come back from injury. Even though he's a youngster, he looks really, really solid. And there were a lot of times where he covered Trent a lot because he used his power and his pace, and that kind of helped Trent to bomb forward as well. So we've got good enough defenders to kind of help Trent in that area, but they're all playing really badly. It's just one of those unfortunate things where we're all defensively poor right now. Even our midfielders, since we've switched to 4-2-3-1, there's been times where Thiago and Henderson have been out of position. They haven't quite got to grips in terms of how they should play defensively. That's why on the counter-attack, we're quite vulnerable. So that is one of my concerns against you guys this weekend, where I think it will be exposed, especially if you've got Kevin De Bruyne and Silva. who can just thread balls through,
Oh, yeah.
and it'll just be like confusion everywhere around that midfield. So, but yeah, I think we are picking up from. Obviously, I'm not going to go above and beyond because we won 7-1 the other day, but we are picking up form. But I feel like when we're in Champions League, we're just switched on differently. I think we're still in low confidence in the Premier League because we know how teams will play against us and how they'll exploit us as well at the same time. So yeah, it's a tricky one in terms of my lineup. So it'll be Van Dijk. I would actually play Konate in this game. He didn't look great against Rangers, but I think that's just because he's had a long layoff and he's getting back to that rhythm. So for me, he needs consecutive games to get back to his normal momentum and then take it from there. That's no shade on Matip. I think Matip's done well, but I'm a big fan of Konate. I feel like he's the future of Liverpool in terms of that centre back that will be dominating years to come. So big fan of his. Midfield, I thought Thiago's injured, but he's fit. He played against Rangers, so I'm happy about that. So Thiago's playing, and I'm going to go for Henderson to be the two midfield man because Fabinho for me has looked really shaky this year. There's been times where he looks really uncomfortable on the ball, which is normally one of his strengths. Where on the half turn he's really good, but this year he's like taking too many touches. The passing's not really coming off really well. I just feel like he's in bad form right now. Maybe he needs a bit of a break as well. So I'll go for Thiago Henderson. My number 10 has to be Bobby Firmino. I feel like he's been in sensational
he
form.
plays the role the best in terms of who you got available, and he just knows how to play in terms of he knows how to play in the sense of like a Lampard, the right runs, the timing, getting the tap ins and coming in at the right time, and also you can just drop down and actually play as a number 10, the false 9, and for sure.
It suits him. I think with all good quality players, they seem to slow the game down when they have the ball. And he has that quality where he's not the fastest, so he doesn't need to be in that number 10 role. I feel like a number 10 should be intelligent in terms of how they play. It's not about using your pace. It's about having the ball and being effective with the ball. And I feel like he knows how to make the good runs. He knows how to thread balls to the wide forwards and stuff. So for me, he's pivotal for us getting back to that rhythm and that momentum this year. So yeah, number 10 for Firmino. And then my front three. So Diaz is out, I believe, for a couple of months. So we won't see him in action until after the World Cup, unfortunately. So he won't be available. I'm going to go for Jota on the left, Núñez up top, and Salah on the right. One interesting thing that I noticed when Salah scored his hat-trick is that he played more centrally. Now, as an outsider, do you think that could be a long-term position for Salah? Because traditionally, wingers that are 30-odd years old aren't really playing wingers anymore. They invert and turn into either number 10s or out-and-out strikers. Do you think that could be something that Klopp might use as Salah as a striker going forward?
If you guys didn't have Núñez, I would say yes. But I think this is where the issue is with Salah playing this season, because when he's played previously, even though he's played as a wide forward, he's mostly been the focal point in terms of being a striker and getting goals. And people are looking for him. Whereas now, even though now he's playing wide, he has to play like a natural wide player and look to get balls in for Núñez and get him into it, because Núñez is you guys' focal point. So in Salah, how he's playing now, this is not really his natural position in terms of getting assists, being creative and stuff like that. Normally, as you said, he's a guy, he will start out wide, but he'll drift into the middle, get the tap in, and he's normally starting higher up. Whereas now he has to drop deep a bit, get the ball and try and work some magic and try and look for Núñez. And we saw by the goal that you guys scored against Arsenal, if it was coming from the right hand side, it probably might not have been a goal, because Salah's not used to trying to create for other people. He's used to people creating for him. So I think that could be a kind of system that you play maybe against the lesser teams, where Salah might start out wide, but he drifts into the middle, and you're playing two up top and playing like a diamond in the middle, maybe. But I think in the bigger games where you need to have, it's good to have two strikers, but you don't want to have that space on the wings where people are just going up and down. So for now, I just think Salah just have to try to reinvent himself.
Yeah.
He hasn't been in great form this season. I don't know what your thoughts about that, why you think he's been like that, but I think he needs to kind of improve and kind of adapt his game, because that was one thing I always said about Salah in terms of Salah and Mane, where yes, Salah gets all the plaudits and gets all the credit, but in terms of the overall game, Mane did offer more in terms of he could assist, he would track, he did all dirty work, he would score goals, where Salah was the guy who was just scoring the goals, and that's what everyone knows in this generation, GA, goals and assists, and it's like, he's the guy. But if you're watching the overall game, you would see that Salah was the workhorse and did a lot of the running around Firmino in that front three, and Salah was the guy that was getting the credit by just finish off all the chances that those guys created for him.
No, that's spot on. I think that's one thing. I feel like a lot of people say, oh, the reason why we haven't been great this year because Mane is gone. It's not as simple as just Mane is gone. We've lost a player who's very efficient on that left-hand side, whereas I think Diaz, I think he's a top talent, but he's still learning the game. He's still learning the way we play. And I feel like there's times where he's quite predictable in his play, especially when he's attacking, where he cuts in and it's like quite obvious in terms of what he's going to do. So that's a transition in terms of for him, in terms of learning how the team plays, because like he hasn't got the right chemistry with the left back, whether it's Tsimikas or Robertson. He always gets confused in terms of where to be positioned. So whereas Mane had a fantastic relationship with Robertson, they knew how to interchange, and that will come in, in due time. In regards to Salah, I think he's been in poor form in general. But having said that, the reason I think is because, like you've said, he's playing more out wide. He's playing that traditional out on the winger, like stay on the byline. Back in the day, that's how English football was.
Exactly,
attack on the byline, hit those crosses. Like, obviously, he's not right-footed, but that is his game. Like, in terms of like hit the byline and try and get some crosses in. That's not his game. What he was best at is being an inside forward and getting goals. And I feel like even against Rangers, because he didn't start the game, he came off from the bench and he played up top. For me, it's like the shackles were off. Like, let me just play the way I want to play. And he scored the fastest hat trick in Champions League history.
I saw that. It was mad. Like, I watched it, and I think the time was 3-1, and then I did something, went back on like socials. I saw it was like 6-1, and he said he scored a hat trick. Like, how did that even happen? But it was mad. I think he scored a hat trick in 12 minutes or something like that. Something crazy.
6 minutes, 12 seconds. So yeah, it was nuts the way he did it. But I think it's an option. But I do agree with you. I think if we didn't have Nunes, because for me, Nunes is the project now. He's the guy where everything's tailored for him. So you can't make those adjustments now just because things aren't working. Like, he's the long-term vision. So yeah, for me, Salah does have to reinvent himself, but at the same time, I feel like he can be a bit more smart in his play, where he doesn't have to be predictable, be out wide all the time. He can cut in as well, interchange with the right side midfielder, whether it's Henderson or Elliott. I think he can do a bit more. So maybe he doesn't have that confidence because he feels like, oh, I'm deployed further on the width. I can't really cut in and do what I have to do. But I feel like eventually he will get there. But it's just one of those ones. It's taking time. So yeah, so that is my front three. So it'll be Jota, Firmino, and Salah. So
what's your thoughts on Nunes? Because obviously he got his debut goal, then he got suspended. Then obviously we saw stuff that he's in training. Finishing was looking a bit higgy. Was looking poor, and then he came back. But what's your thoughts on? Because with Nunes, I'd seen him when he was at Almira, and then I'd seen him at Benfica. And I'm a big fan of Football Manager. I play Football Manager a lot in it, so he was always one of my go-to strikers to buy. And he's got so much potential, so much attributes, but he's basically a diamond in the rough. He's, like you said, he's a project. You got to kind of shine him, refine the edges. But what's your thoughts on Nunes as a player, and what do you think he can kind of become at Liverpool and whatnot? Like,
do you know what's funny? So with Nunes, I have known about him for a few years, and it wasn't just because of what he did against us last year. I've actually known him for a few years. I think Almira is the club you mentioned. I think Benfica as well, because there was a journalist, James Pearce, who covers for Liverpool. He did an article where he explained how Liverpool recruit players. So it was based on stats and in terms of how the club would look at forwards. And Nunes was one of the names on the list. So I was intrigued because I never heard of him that much. So this was like 3 years ago. Okay. So I was like, let me see what he's about. So I watched him for Benfica. And obviously, it's a different league in terms of how the Premier League is. So it's a bit more, I think they're a bit more attack minded there. So
Mm.
he looks really good there. And obviously against us, he was phenomenal. And then Van Dijk gave him a glowing reference to say, look, he's one of the toughest strikers I've faced in my career. So that helped in terms of, I think, recruiting him. Funny thing is, I did a poll on Twitter where Mane was gone, and I said, what do fans want? Which striker would they want? And I said I wanted Nunes, but that was based on what I've seen in the last couple of years in Benfica. So for me, he's like a young Cavani where he presses a lot from the front.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of pace, but he can get goals, but he's still very erratic. He's, like you said, he's a
that's the best word. Very, very erratic.
Very erratic. So like when he's in full confidence, and when I've seen him play for Benfica, his first touch is a lot better than what he's showing right now. And his general play is a lot better because he likes to attack the channels, whether that's on the left or the right. And he does it for Uruguay as well. Like, he's really efficient in terms of how he plays. So for me, he's still getting used to the league. He's still getting used to his surroundings. The physicality of the league is a big thing as well. So, which was one of the reasons why he got that red card. That was just red mist where he just lost it. Didn't really know how to control himself there. So it will take time. I don't see him doing Haaland numbers. I don't think no one's going to do Haaland numbers, but do you know what I mean? But I think there is a player there, but it will take time. He was my first choice. I got to stick by him in terms of, like, he's got to live up to the bill. Do you know what I mean?
No, definitely. And I think once it's kind of, like I said, he's your guy's project because most of the players around him, they're getting older. So Firmino's getting older, Salah's getting older. Once you kind of get players that kind of suit his game, I think that's where you're going to unlock the full potential in the sense of, he's got them good runs. He's got good movement in the box. It's all about getting the balls into the box, the tap-ins. And that he's a player that can also create his own goals. He's got pace. He's got a good shot. So I think it's once you can kind of adapt the team to him, get a number 10 that's going to get him through balls. Because that's the funny thing about it, because everyone says that, but if you put Nunes in City's team, I'm not saying he's going to do Haaland numbers, but he probably would have 8 or 9 goals by now because of the chances we create. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's all it is, having the right creativity behind him to give him the right balls. I think he will do the business, but definitely he needs time because it's not like he's come from Germany straight to England. He's come from, we would say, like a tier 3 league in terms of Portugal. So it's a big step up. So I think people need to give him kind of time. But you know how this day and age, if you're not scoring straight away, then you're bummed. You know what I mean? Or you're flop. Like that's just how it is.
No, it's true. I think with Nunes as well, I think people, when they see strikers, they expect him to be like the complete forward where he needs to be able to do link-up play, he needs to do a bit of this. But for me, he looks like a raw finisher to me. So having the 4-2-3-1 formation and having a solid number 10 behind him, that will only help his game, in my opinion, because he can actually just focus on being on the shoulder of the defense and working through the lines and trying to get the end of things and just finishing. That should be his main focus. So that's why I'm a big fan of this formation. I'm hoping we stick to it. But against City, God knows what's going to happen. But speaking of this game, what is your score prediction?
Do you know what? I think it's going to be a close game, and the score might not reflect that. But I think City's going to win 3-1. And I say that because I remember the first game we played against West Ham, and then the second game we played, De Bruyne and the midfielders, they didn't really understand Haaland. They were taking the extra touch. And Haaland, you can see Haaland, he's bending his run. And he's got this thing where he knows, I'll bend my run. Once I get the acceleration on, no one's stopping me. And De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva and Foden, all those guys there, they didn't quite understand it. And in previous times when we've gone to play Liverpool, we've normally played with a false nine, or basically played with a false nine, where it's Jesus on the left, Foden down the middle. And I think now where we've got Haaland and he can stretch the defense, I think that's where you're going to see De Bruyne just whipping in all these balls. And we're going to see all these Fodens and the Mahrez getting into these half spaces and just overloading certain areas. And I just think now we've got someone that can just finish. There's chances where we had against Liverpool before where we're just scuffing them or we're missing them. And I think he's going to be that X factor where he's going to take those chances. So I think it'll be 3-1, to be fair.
No, that's a fair point. Okay, so my score prediction. I've been thinking about this a lot. I don't even know what to say. I don't
It's
think
a tough
we'll
one
win.
coming from where you're coming, because I know you're playing poor. It's bad form, but at the end of the day,
Yeah.
you're still thinking we're Liverpool.
Yeah.
We've got a good record against Man City at Anfield, but
Yeah.
saying we're going to win 3-0 might be a bit mad. But I know where you're coming from. I know where you're coming from.
I can't predict that kind of scoreline, but okay, I have to say it with a bit of chest. So I don't think we'll win. I'll be honest with you. I don't think we'll win. Despite us having a great result midweek, for me, that's not enough to say we're going to be back to normal and give a fight against City. I think it'll be 2-1, but I don't think it'll be a close encounter. I think you guys will be quite comfortable, especially, I would say, in terms of my prediction, I think you'll get the goals early, which will hurt Liverpool more. And I think second half, you'll just
cruise control.
Have possession and just be in cruise control, in my opinion. So yeah, I'm expecting Haaland to score. Liverpool, for Liverpool, I like Salah to get a goal. I remember my FPL. People are like, why do you still have him in the FPL team? But it's loyalty, isn't it?
That's why I say you're loyal to the core, man.
I know I've got that Klopp gene in me where I'm like, got to be sentimental to these players. I think because of that hat trick, he might be a bit more confident going into the game. I think it'll be Haaland, and I think Foden will score the second goal. So
I'm not too far off you. I would probably say KDB, Foden, Haaland. They'll grab the goals for us. But
KDB looks crazy right now. The way he's assisting Haaland is, for me, it's like a new level right now.
And that's the thing, because at first he obviously all the time he's been doing that. He gets assists, but it's just having a guy that just focuses on getting goals. It's not about getting involved in the play and going to the left, drifting to the right. I'm just here to grab goals and just finish and just eat. And that's what De Bruyne does, because De Bruyne's like having David Beckham and Gerrard in one, but with technical ability. Because sometimes I see De Bruyne playing when he's driving at pace. He reminds me of Gerrard, but then
100%.
He gets into that half spaces where he'll just whip a ball in like he's Beckham, and it's like he's doing it like a step before. Like he gets the ball, he's already looked. Like you saw it against Aston Villa, when obviously that game I was thinking we shouldn't have dropped points, but just even seeing the play and the goal, he got it, looked up straight, bent it, and then Haaland was just there. And I think they're the things that we were missing before, and I think that's just the X factor. And you look at it, I think so far De Bruyne's got 8 assists, I believe, and Haaland's got 15 goals, and we played 9 games. So imagine they're both going to break the assist record and hopefully the goal scoring record if they continue at this rate. Do you know what I mean? So
make a prediction for me. What's De Bruyne's tally end of the season for assist, and what's Haaland's tally at the end of the season?
Do you know what I'm going to say? Do you know what? Because I think we're going to break it. I have to say, I think De Bruyne's going to get, I think the record for assists is 20 or 21. So I'm going to say De Bruyne gets 22 assists. Yeah. And I think Haaland, because I tried to work out the numbers, because at the moment he's on 15. Yeah. And there's 29 games left. And I just thought, okay, cool. Even if he scores every other game, that's 15 goals. So he's going to bag 30. But I just think he'll probably break the record by 1, probably say 33. So Haaland, 33 goals. And then I would say KDB, 22 assists.
That's a good shot. I think Haaland would definitely beat the record. I just can't see him slowing down. Obviously, the only way to stop Haaland is if he gets injured, because obviously he's got a track record of not having the best injury. But in terms of how he's playing, he's one of those players where he can have one bad game, and then the next game he's just revved up, and he's like, I'm going to get happy to play. And then he does it as well. So,
because you got to remember, there was a lot of people that were saying Haaland's going to struggle. He might not get 20 league goals. Do you know what I mean?
I heard people predicting being flop of the season.
See, but you know what that is, bro? That's just people just hating and don't want to tell the truth. Because, like, anyone that knows football, City creates chances. So you could be a half decent striker. You're going to guarantee 15 goals anyway. So Haaland's way better than half decent striker. He's going to get more than 15 goals. Like, make it make sense. Do you know what I mean? So when people said that, I just laughed and said, you know what? Like I said, I didn't expect this, the hat trick, the 3 hat tricks in a row at home, which is crazy. But we knew what he does in it. We've seen his record in the Champions League, seen his record in the Bundesliga. And it's funny because everyone said, "Oh, Germany's a farmers league." What are we calling the Premier League now? Do you know what I mean? So sometimes people have to just stay calm, and now they're gonna have to eat their words. But obviously, before we wrap up and so forth, in terms of yourself and being a Liverpool fan, where do you see Liverpool going and finishing the season? Because right about now, you're what, 14 points behind Arsenal?
Jeez.
There you go. You got a game in hand. So let's say it's 11, but where do you see yourself finishing like this season?
Honestly, for me, if we get top 4, that's an achievement. We're not in the title race. I don't care how optimistic you are. It's done. It's not happening. So for me, it's the race for top 4 right now. Yeah. If I was to make a bold prediction, I would probably say we'll finish 3rd or 4th. I don't think we'll be higher than that. But we need to get that momentum again, because right now we're so inconsistent. That is the problem with Liverpool right now. We're good in the Champions League. We come into the Premier League and then we're off it. So consistency is what will get us further ahead. But yeah, we're in the top 4 race. I don't see us challenging as well. Do you see Arsenal as genuine contenders?
Do you know what? I don't want to sound too cocky. They're there, but I don't see them as actual contenders, because we've seen them go away from home against Man United and they've lost. And the 2 big games they've won, have been at home. So in sports, they always say protect home field, which they've done. It's what are they going to do on a cold night in Anfield, midweek, or Monday Night Football, 7 o'clock? What are they going to do there? What are you going to do against, Newcastle? Obviously, they're coming up. What are you going to do against Chelsea? And I think at the moment, they're doing what they're meant to do. And they've had 2 challenges, which they've passed, but they've had a challenge where they've kind of flopped, where you shouldn't be losing to United. So I think they're going to be there or thereabouts. But, all you can do is count what you've done so far, and they're top of the league. So I give them credit for that. But just in terms of longevity and stuff like that, let's see how it works when Arteta has to make some change, and he has to drop Saka. He has to rest Saka. He has to rest Odegaard. He has to rest Jesus. How is he going to adapt to that? And I think that's where you're going to see how good Arsenal really are, because when you got to play every 2-3 days, Champions League, Carabao Cup, FA Cup, and you got to rest players strategically, let's see how we can adapt and what the other players that he brings in can do. So I think for now, you say yes, but where they are now, they should finish in the top 4. But I don't see them as threats. But I'm very intrigued to see how that City versus Arsenal game goes, because as I watch Arsenal a lot, because obviously they had a lot of live games, and I just wanted to see how they're playing. And Arteta's basically taken what he's learned from City and how City kind of do their build up and take it there. He brought Zinchenko in, who's not a typical left back or a great left back, but he knows he's going to fit into the system that he wants to play in terms of that inverted wing back.
Yeah.
Brought in Jesus, the same thing. And it's like a mirror image. Like, he has the same build-up play. Build up with the 2 at the back, 3 in the midfield, and the 5 up front that just rotate. And I watch him and I just think, this is basically City's blueprint that he just got here and he's just using it. Like, he's gone to do a test and Pep said, here's the answers. And like, I saw something on Twitter and it was like, they said Pep was so bored of strolling the Premier League that he created his own manager, gave him some players so he can have someone to compete against him. Like, it's funny, but it's crazy.
I saw that movie. That made me chuckle as well. I think it's kind of spot on to an extent, because you've sold them the players as well, and they're doing literally a mirror image of how you guys play. So
exactly.
So yeah, in terms of Arsenal, for me, I think they will be up there, but I don't see them being changed. And you have every right to feel cocky, because I feel like your strength in depth is unmatched, in my opinion. That's one thing with Arsenal. I feel like when the games come thick and fast, also to consider is the World Cup. After the World Cup, injuries or players out of form and stuff, because that will take a lot out of the players. So I don't think a lot of people have actually taken that into consideration. So so that will play a big part. And obviously, the further they get into Europa League, that I believe they're playing, aren't they? They were playing today. I don't know if you saw. They were playing on AstroTurf.
Oh, were they? I saw they won 1-0.
Yeah, they won 1-0. I thought they were playing in Power League or something. Like, it was just mad, like professional game.
AstroTurf as well. That's where you roll up, bruise ankles, sprain ankles. You got to be careful, man.
Trust me. So I was just a bit surprised to see that. But yeah, so if they progress in that competition, more games. And if they're progressing in the FA Cup and all that, more games. Because Liverpool played over 60 to 70 games last year because we were in all competitions. So let's see how they manage, if they're well equipped. Because for me, I think the midfield is still an area, not quite the number 10 role, the more defensive midfield, I would say, where if they have one or two injuries there, I think they don't have the right quality to step in and kind of continue the flow of their team. So I feel like that is an area that they might struggle with going forward. Just got a couple comments here. So Double D, who was a guest on the show a few weeks ago, he says 2-2. He's a Liverpool fan. Look, mate, I would take 2-2. I would take that point and run with it right now. I'm telling you.
But this is what I was saying though, because obviously the rival we've had, no certain games, form goes out the windows, derbies, whatever. Like, there's no form. So if it was 2-2, I wouldn't be surprised. Just how the intensity is going to be there. You know, it's going to be a big game. So, 4 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. The fans are going to be gassed, amped. It's going to be ruckus. And as much as most people dislike Liverpool, Liverpool is not a place where you want to go where the fans are they're amped for the game, because it's a place where you'd be like, let me just take the point and just get out. So I wouldn't want the draw, but if we got a 2-2 draw to stay unbeaten, I would take it and keep it moving, man.
Yeah. I can actually see that happening as well. I think, you're spot on. In terms of the occasion, it's not about the form, it's about who the two teams are. So it's another.
And we've seen it already with you guys this season. You guys played Man United, and I thought he was going to beat them, and the occasion just came up, and you guys were just a shell of yourselves.
We were, I think this is another game where, because it's City and because of the rivalry, it's one of those ones where, as a player, you don't need much more motivation than playing City. This is the game that everyone looks forward to now. So it is one of those ones. Double D with another comment. Van Dijk home record gone. Saying so. I know. I just clocked that as well. Yeah.
But you remember what they've been calling you? Liverpool. So you might get a VAR decision where it ends up as a draw. Like, no one ever goes to Anfield and comes out happy. There's always something that's happened where it's like there's controversy. This should have happened. That should have happened. So hopefully it does go. But if it's a draw, like I said, I'll take that and keep it moving, man.
Listen, I don't think Michael Oliver and his team got the memo on Sunday, because that Liverpool wasn't existing at that day, man. So it's not looking good. But before we wrap up, what we'll do, we'll have a look through the other fixtures of match week 11, I believe it is. So let me just share a screen so you guys can see the graphic. So it's got the fixtures here. So okay, so the first fixture we'll go for is Brentford and Brighton. How do you see that going?
Do you know what? I'm a big fan of Brighton in terms of how they play, how Graham Potter got them playing, and just in terms of their recruitment and stuff they've done. So look, this is going to be a very tough game. Brentford and Brighton, they're very similar teams. Brighton have actually started off really well this season. So I do see. I want Brighton to win. I can see a draw, but I would say Brighton win 2-1.
That's a good prediction, I think. Yeah, I think both teams I think Brentford have shown good form. The last game was awful, and they conceded a lot of goals last week. Brighton, I think under Potter, they were fantastic. And even with this new manager now, they seem to just keep the ball rolling in terms of how they're playing. So
transition.
It's a great, exactly. So shame about the news of Mwepu as well, who I think is set to retire due to a heart condition. So what are your thoughts? And I thought it was really sad. 24 years old. For me, he had so much potential to actually be a top player in the league.
No, definitely. It's actually sad to see someone have to retire so young. But what someone said and what I heard, which is so true, is that at least he was able to find out before something bad happened on the pitch. So at least he knows, okay, cool. It's a hereditary disease that he's got, or situation that he's got, and they found out before it was too late, where it could have something happen to him on the pitch, and it could have been fatal. So the main thing that he's going to be live and well, and hopefully he can stay in football, whether it's coaching or doing something. But just to retire at 24, it's really sad, because he had so much potential, and he had a bright future ahead of him. So
he did.
All the best to him on his future endeavors, man.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely a shame in terms of what's happened, but I think it's the right call. because you would get some players where I feel like they would probably still play ahead due to just looking at the age. I'm 24, I'm young and healthy. Like, despite what the doctors told me, I can still go on, but I think it's the right call. Hopefully, he does stay within the game. Maybe even stay within the Brighton setup because I think they've got a great foundation there for coaching and young players. So maybe he can be part of that. So yeah, all the best to him in terms of his future. In regards to this game, I'm going for a draw. I think it'll be 1-1 against Brentford and Brighton. Leicester City and Crystal Palace. So Leicester City got their first win. Probably about time. But how do you see this game panel? Do you think Leicester City are back in terms of how they're playing, or was that just a good result last week?
Do you know what? It was a good result, but at the end of the day, they're playing Nottingham Forest, and I think in terms of the changes and the recruitment that Forest has brought in, they brought in basically two teams, and Steve Cooper hasn't found his best team, his best starting 11. It at the moment, Forest are the whipping boys in a sense, so that we can't really take too much from that victory. And I like what Vieira's doing at Palace in terms of you got Eze, Olise, Zaha, Osmond as well up front. And obviously you got Gay at the back, Anderson. So to be honest, this game I think Palace will get a victory. To be fair, I think Palace might win 2-1, 2-0. I see it being close because Palace is not a team where they score a lot of goals. It's very close game. So if I were to say Palace to win, it would either be like a 1-0 or a 2-1 by 1-goal deficit advantage.
Yeah, I co-signed that. I was going to go for 1-0 for Palace. I think they'll just nick the win. You mentioned some of the young players they have a promising future. Olise for me just looks like a baller. The way he plays,
left foot, bro.
Left foot is mad. It's literally it just hits it how he wants it. Eze for me, I've been speaking so highly of him for the last 2-3 years. Top young player. I'm glad he's got a chance to play in the Premier League because his career has been where he's playing at Reading and stuff. But he's actually found a home where I feel like it's tailored to his game as well. So, and obviously taking, I think Gallagher's role in the team where he's a creative spark. So, and I think he scored last week as well, didn't he? So yeah, he looks in good form. And then we've got Zaha there, who's a phenomenal player as well. So yeah, I'm going for a 1-0 win for Palace there. Wolves and Nottingham Forest. So Wolves, from what I know, still haven't got a new manager. They tried to get the former Spain manager, isn't it?
Peggy, but he turned it down, allegedly family reasons.
Family was like, nope, we ain't moving to Wolves. So their search continues. I know they were linked with the Sporting Lisbon manager, but that's not happening because obviously Sporting Lisbon are flying in the Champions League. They're doing great in their league. So it'll be interesting who they actually recruit. But Nottingham Forest, their new manager, who for me was under fire in terms of his position at the club, has got a contract extension, which was interesting to say the least. How do you see this game panning out?
Well, it's a Midlands derby, so everything's gonna go out the window. But to be honest, I see it being a draw. I'll go for a 1-1 draw because both teams are in a bit of a crisis. Wolves don't have a manager. Nottingham Forest is still trying to find their ethos, what they're about, and who their best starting 11 is. They've got some good players there. You've got Morgan Gibbs going back to his old team, so he might have a point to prove. But I think it'll be a draw 1-1, to be fair.
Fair play. I think, it's a tricky one, isn't it? I don't see Wolves just can't score goals right now. I know they got Diego Costa come in, but obviously he's not the same player as he was when he was at Chelsea, which is strange because I think they actually recruited some good players in the summer. So they had Guedes, Mateus Nunes as well. So some decent players there, but it just hasn't clicked. I think they're low in confidence just due to not having a manager that's well equipped to kind of get them playing again. So, and Nottingham Forest, they don't breed a lot of confidence. So I'll probably, do you know what? I'm going to go for 0-0. I don't even see them scoring goals in this game. I think it's going to be a dead game, to be honest with you. So I've
never seen it entertaining 0-0. So that's a game that no one's going to be trying to stream.
No, definitely not being a 3:00 kickoff there. Just got a comment here from says Keto John. Thank you for your comment. Haaland is a Targaryen dragon which can only be stopped by an arrow, which I don't think Liverpool possess. I don't think no one possesses that arrow to stop Haaland right now. So yeah, Liverpool certainly don't have it.
Are you a Game of Thrones fan?
No, I'm not.
That's where he got the Targaryen dragon from. So
Oh,
it
okay,
makes sense.
fine. Fine, fine. Fair play, fair play. I was thinking, where's that from? Reference from that. Fine, that makes sense. Next game, Fulham and Bournemouth. So, from what I know, I don't think Mitrovic is available for this game because he was unfit last week.
Mm.
I think he'll probably have a late fitness test before the weekend. For me, that's one of the areas where if he's not on the pitch, I don't see where the goals come from. I know they've got Vinicius who used to play for Tottenham as well,
Yeah, Carlos Vinicius, yeah.
but for me, he's not really as vocal in terms of his impact as a player. How do you
Mm.
see this game going?
You know what? I'm really a big fan of Fulham and Marco Silva in terms of what he's trying to do.
Yeah,
And just his blueprint as well. Wants Fulham to play football, wants them to kind of dictate games and stuff like this. And they both come from the Championship. Bournemouth have basically got the same team that they was playing within the Championship. Fulham have had some additions, and I think Fulham just the better team and better equipped. So I would say Fulham win 2-0.
2-0. Yeah, I'm going for 1-0 Fulham. I think, especially if Mitchell is not playing, I think they'll get the goal. They'll have a bit more quality. But I don't see it being like a high scoring game. But you never know. My predictions haven't always been as great as ever. But
You,
it is
man.
what it is. I know that's the game that we all love. Tottenham and Everton. So this is an interesting one. Richarlison plays against his former club. What do you make of Richarlison signing for Tottenham? Has it worked yet, or it's still in progress?
It's still in progress and it hasn't worked. Like, obviously, he left, and I understand the situation because Everton are one of them teams where, obviously, you've been a Liverpool fan, you're happy to see their demise, but they're one of them teams that they've spent a lot of money, bought lots of players, but they're just still in the same position. They've never kind of improved or elevated, and I kind of see why he left. But going into the Tottenham team, where especially how Conte plays, where he's very rigid and has a set formation and a set team that he wants to play. I don't know how you thought he was going to break in and, get into that front three of Kulusevski, Son, and Kane. And even when he has started, he hasn't really been effective. So far, the debate's out, the jury's out whether this was a right move. I guess, look, everyone wants to live in London, playing for Tottenham Champions League. So that's why he went. But he said basically he left because he wasn't really feeling Everton's vision of what they were trying to do. And I think this game's going to be a tricky one. I think a lot of people will say Tottenham's going to win, but I just think Everton, they're a funny team, and I think it's going to be a 2-2 draw.
That's an interesting prediction. I agree with the Richarlison thing because I think with Everton, when they have the new owners, they didn't really have a strategy and plan. I think they was just like try and sign as many big names as possible to make it seem like we're a big club because Liverpool, our neighbours, they're doing things right now. We've got to make our fans happy as well. But that's the thing. You can spend as much money as you want. If there's no strategy behind it, it's not going to work. So Richarlison was one of the expensive players that they bought, I think, at the start of that regime. And he did decent for them, to be fair. But I agree with you in terms of his move for Tottenham. It was a tricky one because he was never going to break into that team, in my opinion. I don't think he possesses better qualities than Son. And Kulusevski looks fantastic on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
So he's not going to offer those traits in the team. So he was always going to play cover for Kane or Son, which is not bad, but it depends in terms of his ambitions going forward. But in terms of this game, it's a tricky one. I think Tottenham will probably just nick it. I think it'll be a scruffy game, to be fair.
Yeah.
I think Tottenham might just nick a win. I think it'll be 1-0. I don't think Richarlison will score. I think it'll probably be either Son or Kane. But yeah, I think it'll be a 1-0.
He'll be one of the antagonists because he's like, I actually like Richarlison when he was at Watford. And then obviously he went to Everton. He wasn't really living up to expectations there. And he was a guy like he'll just wind you up, and he's kind of played to that kind of character of, okay, cool, I'm just gonna just wind people up and just get on people's nerves. And I think he needs to focus on his game and just try and deliver on the pitch.
100%. No, I agree with that one. Next game, Southampton versus West Ham. So West Ham have picked up some form now. They've got a couple wins. Their Italian striker scored last week as well, Scamacca. Southampton have been a bit hit and miss, conceding a lot of goals. How do you see that match panning out?
Look, in terms of Southampton, to be honest, I actually like their recruitment in terms of what they've done. They've kind of gone young. You know, they got the guy Joe Shields from Man City, head of recruitment, and brought in Samuel Dozie. They also brought in Lavia, which he's a dope guy, which is so crazy that they bought him from us City for 14 million after he performed well against Chelsea. Chelsea put in a bid for him for 60 million. Like, just Chelsea sort out your recruitment, and allegedly Joe Shields, he's meant to be going to Chelsea as head of recruitment. So let's see how it is.
Oh wow, okay. I
Yeah.
did not know that.
So do you know what? Let Southampton have a good team and they're trying to build something, but I just see, you know, West Ham, you know, go in there, Mikel Antonio just bullying the defenders and, you know, getting a scruffy win. So I'll probably say West Ham will win 3-1.
Nice. I'm going for a 2-0 victory for West Ham. I don't think Southampton will trouble them in this game. Manchester United and Newcastle. So Newcastle had a great victory last week against Brentford, 5-1, I believe it was. How do you see this game going for both teams?
Southwest coach, yeah.
Sorry, bro. What was you saying?
I was just saying Manchester United playing Newcastle as the next fixture. Newcastle won 5-1 against Brentford last week, so they're in good form right now. How do you see this game going?
This is a tricky one because Newcastle's the team that's, you know, that's people are scared of breaking into that top four, and they've got a good team. Bruno Gomares, he's on form right now, and a lot of these big teams are like looking like, how did we sleep on this guy? Do you know what I mean? I'm a City fan, so I might be a hater, but and also I don't think Ten Hag's kind of figured out how he wants his team to play, because in terms of this, he wants to play total football and possession-based football. United don't necessarily have the players for that, and he's still trying to adapt to it. We don't know if Casemiro is going to start. I don't know why he's not starting, because the other two signings that he's brought in have started, Martinez and the left back. I forgot his name. Yeah, Malacia. He's been starting. So I'm gonna go for an upset here, man. I think Newcastle might nick it. I think they might win 2-1. Kamara's on the score.
I am a Man United hater, so I'm going for that same scoreline. I think they will nick it as well. I think they've shown great form. They haven't lost many games. They've drawn quite a few. So I feel like they're a hard team to beat right now. And they've got Callum Wilson, who's been in great form so far this season. So they're playing like the right football. Bruno Guimaraes scored some fantastic goals last week as well. So, yeah, man on fire right now. So, yeah, I'm going for a 2-1 victory for Newcastle there. Same as you. Leeds United and Arsenal.
Leeds are at home. This is a game previously that Arsenal would probably slip up and kind of lose, or the occasion would get to them. But do you know what? Even though Arsenal in good form, they're away. Leeds are one of those teams that they always step up, and they play well against the big teams. So I can see Arsenal dropping points here. I might sound like, I just want them to drop points because they're above us. But I think I can see this being a draw, 1-1 draw.
1-1 draw.
I can see this being a draw, because I think we saw how Leeds played against Chelsea. They won 3-0. Yes, that might have been, they might not have been playing for Tuchel, but I think they outplayed Chelsea at home, even though I don't think it was anything that the players dropped down tools. So I think it's going to be a draw, 1-1. This is the games where if they win, this is the kind of games where we can say, do you know what? Arsenal might stay in the top four, because previously these are games where they'll drop points. These tricky games away from home where they're expected to win, smaller team, and they drop points.
No, that's a fair point. I think for this one, I think Arsenal might just nick the win here. So I'm going for a 2-1 win for Arsenal. I shouldn't really be supporting them in this match. But yeah. It is what it is. Aston Villa and Chelsea.
This is another easy one, because this is the thing where, in terms of propaganda, because everyone loves Gerrard, everyone loves Lampard, and if we look at both of their records as managers, their records have been trash. And we see someone like Patrick Vieira, where he hasn't had that boost where he's able just to go to a big team and get big budgets, and he's doing stuff, and he's identifying young players and bringing players through, and he's got a style of football that he wants to play. Yes, you know, Gerrard, Stevie G did at Rangers, completely different league. But it's like he's still finding himself at Aston Villa, and I'm not too sure if it's the players or whatnot. He has brought in his own players. There's still players there from the previous regime, but I see this an easy win for Chelsea. Potter's kind of got them. I wouldn't say playing better, but I think Potter's kind of adapting to his team, and he changes the formation on a game by game basis. I've seen him play a 4-4-2. I've seen him play a 4-3-3. I've seen him playing the traditional 3-4-3. So I think Chelsea will probably win, and I'll say 3-1.
Yeah, I think that's a good assessment for that. I'm going for a 3-0. I don't think Villa will be on the score sheet here. I think Potter is still, like I say, he's still trying to figure out what the right formation is for his team based on the current players he has. But I think at least he has that flexibility where he can change formations, and they don't seem to lose their shape as well. So I think he's got a good crop of players to work with. And then obviously there's already rumors that Nkunku will be signing for them next season, which is, that's one player I wanted for Liverpool. But
and that's like a Liverpool signing, like not big marquee name, identifying a young player that there's resale value and he's still young. And I think that's very similar to the American model in terms of how they look at other stuff, like they play NFL, NBA, and Major League Baseball. It's more like, okay, this is what the situation is. Let's identify a young player that is playing well at a lesser team. If he comes into our team, what he can do and how can he improve? And also, is there resale value in terms of we can buy him for 40 million and maybe in 2.5 years, 3 years time, we can sell him for 75. So I think that's a good signing for them. And I'm surprised because that's a very Liverpool-like signing.
I know, trust me. When I heard the news, I was very disappointed. My cousin's a Chelsea fan as well, so he was definitely over the moon about that. But it is very trust me. But so that's our predictions for the Premier League match week 11. So thank you for everyone for tuning in. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Sam, thank you for joining the show. Appreciate your time for today. Please let the people know where to follow you on social and your channel as well.
For sure. No, I definitely appreciate you having me on Ozzie. I'll definitely be on more. It's good just chopping it up with you, talking football and whatnot. So I appreciate that. But on the socials, follow us on Twitter, which is Undiluted Media 1. Follow us on Instagram, Undiluted Media _. The YouTube is Undiluted Media. And like, share, subscribe, and just lock in to what we're doing. Going to do some more in-person content, more podcasts, more shows, and so forth. So just stay tuned, man.
Definitely stay tuned with Undiluted Media. I've been on the show a few times as well. Great people there. So make sure to follow the guys. I will tag their channel in the description, so make sure you hit the link and make sure you follow them. Definitely there. So thank you guys. Take care. Stay safe. And I will probably be back. I'll probably be doing a match reaction show of this.
After that loss.
I was just thinking, should I even announce that? I might. So I'll be doing a match reaction for that game. We'll see if I'm on a rant or whatnot. But nevertheless, might as well tune in and see how I am on that day. But yes, take care, guys, and I hope to see you all soon. Good evening.
No worries. Take it easy, man.